The candles on the little dessert in front of me wobble every time the rooftop heaters breathe, tiny orange flames fighting the draft slipping under the glass walls. Their reflections tremble in the untouched flute of Prosecco by my elbow, turning the bubbles into small, frantic comets. I glance at my phone again. 8:52 p.m. No new messages. No missed calls. The notification bar is a flat, gray horizon. I set the phone face down, then immediately flip it back up like it might magically change just because I can't stand to look at my own reflection in the black screen. My thumbnail taps an anxious beat against the glass, keeping time with the thud in my throat. Someone clears their throat to my right. Miss Avery? I look up. The event coordinator is standing at the edge of my private table, hands folded politely in front of the slim black clipboard pressed to his chest. He's probably late 20s, good posture, hair gelled into something deliberate. His eyes slide over the 3 empty chairs surrounding me, the vases of white tulips, the place cards with Avery, Avery, Avery printed in careful gold script. Would you like us to hold the kitchen a bit longer? He asks. We can push your food another 15-20 minutes if your party is still on the way. My smile feels like it's made out of brittle ceramic. I angle it at him anyway. Let's give them just a little more time, I say. My voice comes out smoother than I expect. They're probably just stuck in traffic. He nods, but his eyes flick to the glass doors that frame the Seattle skyline. It's a Tuesday night in February. The streets 6 stories below are wet and half empty, car lights smeared into streaks on the glistening pavement. There is no traffic, we both know it. Of course, he says gently. If you need anything, my name's Daniel. As he steps away, the hum of the rooftop restaurant wraps itself back around me, cutlery against plates, low conversations, the occasional eruption of laughter from a group near the bar. Someone pops a cork and the sound cracks through the air like a tiny gunshot. I adjust the cuff of my navy blazer for the 5th time, smoothing invisible wrinkles out of the fabric. I bought it last week tailored to my shoulders because tonight was supposed to be a milestone, not a test. Intimate family dinner, my mother had said on the phone. We should mark your big news properly. Big news. Promotion to lead architect on the Seabourn waterfront redevelopment. The biggest project of my career. 8 years of late nights, impossible deadlines, and swallowing my pride in meetings finally cemented into a title that actually acknowledged the work. I can still see the email in my mind, black text swimming on a white background. We're pleased to confirm your appointment as lead architect. I'd walked straight out of the office to the stairwell, sat on the concrete steps, and let myself cry for 30 whole seconds. Happy tears, disbelief tears, a confusing mix of relief and exhaustion. Then I'd wiped my face, reapplied my lipstick, and called my parents. Mom had answered on the second ring. We should celebrate, she'd said. Your father will be thrilled, and we really should talk about including your fiancé in the announcements. It's such a good look for the firm when… Mom, I'd interrupted. Can we just do dinner? Just family? Of course, she'd said like she was granting a favor. We'll make it special. I was the one who picked the restaurant. Aurora, rooftop, glass walls, moody lighting, a distant view of the Space Needle softened by mist. I'd been here once before for a client dinner. It had felt out of reach then, the kind of place people went when they had something worth clinking glasses over. I pull out my phone and open the family group chat. Our little A-team yellow heart 3 gray message bubbles stare back at me. The last one is mine, sent this afternoon. Excited to see you all tonight. 7:30 sharp. Table under my name. No one responded, not even a thumbs up. Before that, yesterday, reminder about dinner tomorrow. Let me know if anything changes. Seen by mom, seen by dad, not even opened by Ivy. My chest tightens. That familiar, stupid little voice in my head tries to reason it away. They're busy. They're distracted. They're not great with phones, you know this. Except they answered in 3 minutes when Ivy texted last week about a flash idea for a wellness retreat in Bali. Can you imagine, Mom? Sunrise yoga on rice terraces, sound baths in the jungle. The response chain from my parents was practically a novel. My stomach twists as I picture my younger sister's name glowing on their screens while my messages about the biggest moment of my career sit unread. A waiter passes by with a tray of oysters balanced on ice. The briny smell cuts through the perfume and candle wax. I catch my reflection in the window, dark hair pinned back, makeup carefully done, posture too straight. I look like a woman waiting for a verdict, not a celebration. I reach for the water glass and take a long sip, the cold shocking my mouth. My engagement ring catches the light, a clean, simple diamond in a narrow band. Leo wanted something bigger. I'd picked something that wouldn't snag on drawings and models. Leo should be here too. He's in Tokyo, stuck in meetings for a last-minute acquisition. He'd apologized a dozen times when his flight was changed, voice muffled through the time zone lag. "I'll make it up to you, I promise," he'd said. "Take lots of pictures. Your mom will definitely post them." I'd almost told him to forget the pictures. There's nothing worse than photographic evidence of being an afterthought. I scroll through my notifications again. Still nothing from my parents. Nothing from Ivy. Just a text from my project manager reminding me about a call with the city on Thursday and an email from a supplier about sustainable composite decking. The candles in front of me have burned down 1/4 of an inch. 30 minutes late, not even a courtesy text. "Miss Avery," this time it's the waiter, not the coordinator. Mid-40s, kind eyes, the sort of professional neutrality you only get from years of watching strangers' lives unfold at tables like this. "We can keep the kitchen open for another 15, he says quietly. "But we'll need to start closing tickets soon." My throat feels tight. I should cut my losses. Ask for the check, pack up the untouched charcuterie board they brought out to start the night off, and go home. Pretend this doesn't hurt as much as it does. I hear myself say, "Just a little longer, please." He nods and retreats, leaving me on my glittering little island again. Rain streaks down the glass, blurring the city into soft shapes. Somewhere below, a siren wails and fades. Inside, a woman at the next table over is laughing at something her date just said, throwing her head back, hand over her heart. I imagine my mother's face if she walked in right now and saw me sitting here alone. She'd probably smile too wide, kiss the air near my cheek, apologize for the mix-up, blame traffic or a call she couldn't get off. My father would check his watch and mutter something about work emergencies. Ivy would slide into a chair, absorbing all the light at the table as naturally as breathing, and someone would bring her a cocktail she didn't order. Just like every graduation, every recital, every moment that was supposed to be mine and somehow turned into a stage for someone else. The first time I remember it happening, I was 10. I'd won a citywide art contest. My drawing of the old pier got pinned up in the community center next to kids from fancy private schools. My parents came, Ivy in tow. She was 8, bored, whining. When we reached my drawing, I looked up at them, waiting for something: pride, excitement, a hug. My mother had tilted her head. "Oh, that's nice, Milan." My father had already turned toward the refreshment table. "They have cookies," he'd said. "Ivy, come on." I'd stood alone in front of my own work while Ivy shrieked about the chocolate chip pile on the other side of the room. A drop of hot wax rolls down the side of the nearest candle and hardens halfway, forming a tiny frozen tear. I glance at my phone one more time. Still nothing. The ache in my chest settles into something strangely steady. It hits me all at once, clean, brutal truth. They aren't late. They aren't coming. I'm contemplating whether I can blow out the candles and ask them to box the cake, if you can call a single-plated dessert a cake, when a shadow falls across the table. "Excuse me," a voice says, low and cautious, like he's approaching a wild animal that might bolt. "Is this seat taken?" For a second, my brain plays a glitchy slideshow of possibilities. My parents appearing anyway. Leo surprising me, Ivy making some dramatic entrance. None of those images match the man in front of me. He's in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, silver at his temples instead of in full retreat. His hair is damp, like he just came in from the mist without an umbrella. Dark coat, open at the collar. A leather notebook tucked under one arm, wire-rimmed glasses that catch the candlelight. Every inch of him says he belongs in places like this, but his eyes don't carry that bored gloss you see in people who take linen tablecloths for granted. They're sharper, observant. Kind without being soft. I blink. Yes. I mean, no, they're free. Smooth, Milan, very eloquent. He glances at the empty chairs, then at the 3 candles still burning on the small dessert between us. "Birthday?" he asks gently. "Something like that," I say. He doesn't rush in with platitudes. He doesn't look around like he's searching for hidden guests. He just stands there, considering me, the table, the place settings with unused cutlery. "If you'd rather be alone, I completely understand," he says. I've been sitting over there." He nods toward a two-top near the window. trying very hard not to watch you check your phone every few minutes, and I'm failing spectacularly. Heat prickles the back of my neck. Great stranger pity hour. I'm fine, I say automatically. They're just not coming, he finishes quietly. The words land with a thud somewhere under my ribs. I swallow. Apparently not. He nods like he's confirming a hypothesis, not gloating about being right. Then may I still sit for a minute? He asks. No pressure, no interrogation. Just a human buffer between you and the empty chairs until you decide how you want the rest of your night to go. I look at the 3 place cards, the untouched glassware, the panorama of people who have someone to talk to. I surprise myself. Okay, I say, sure. He slides into the chair across from me, setting the notebook on the table, not intruding on the carefully laid settings that were supposed to be for my family. Up close, I can see the fine lines around his eyes, the kind you get from squinting in sunlight or laughing a lot. I'm Rowan, he says. Rowan Hale. Milan, I reply. Milan Avery. He nods toward the dessert. Happy birthday, Milan. It's not my birthday, I admit. My birthday was yesterday. My mom hates weeknights, so this was more convenient. I don't know why I add that. I'm not in the habit of explaining my mother's preferences to strangers. He doesn't say, that's odd, or why didn't you celebrate yesterday then? He just hums softly, registering the information. Milestone then, he asks. The candles, the formality? He gestures lightly to my blazer, the tulips, the views, the way the table is set like there was supposed to be a small ceremony here. I exhale. There's no point dressing it up. I got promoted, I say. Lead architect on a major project. My parents wanted to do an intimate family dinner to celebrate. Then they didn't show. The corner of his mouth tightens, not in surprise, in recognition. Congratulations on the promotion, he says first. That's not a small thing. Thank you, I say, the word feeling strange in my mouth. Most of the congratulations I've gotten in the past week have been followed with ask. Can you get us tickets to the opening? Can my nephew intern with you? Do you think you'll get a bonus? Rowan's feels clean. The waiter reappears, eyes flicking between us. Would you like me to bring another place setting, Miss Avery? He asks. Yes, please, Rowan says before I can answer. And if the kitchen is about to close, perhaps we can order whatever you recommend that travels well across awkward evenings. The waiter's mouth twitches into a genuine smile. I can arrange that. When he leaves, I toy with the stem of my Prosecco flute. So, I say, because silence feels heavier with another person here. Are you in the habit of rescuing abandoned diners? Not particularly, he replies. I'm in the habit of noticing people who look like they're trying very hard not to shatter. I huff out something that might be a laugh. That obvious? Only to those of us in the same profession, he says. I raise an eyebrow. Psychologist, he clarifies. And writer, depending on the week. I do a lot of work with families and roles. Who gets to be the golden child, who becomes the fixer, who disappears in the background while everyone praises their stability. The back of my neck goes hot again, but this time it's not embarrassment. It's something closer to alarm. Let me guess, I say, aiming for lightness. You've already decided which one I am after watching me for, what, 20 minutes? He taps a finger on the notebook. I have a suspicion. But I'm more interested in whether you recognize the role you've been assigned. Assigned, the word hits a nerve. I shrug. I'm the responsible one, the stable one, the one who doesn't cause trouble. It's not exactly a mystery. And who decided that? He asks. My parents, I say. Life, gravity, take your pick. He tilts his head, studying me not like a subject in a clinical trial, but like a puzzle he wants to see solve itself. May I ask what your sister's name is? He says. I blink. I never said I had a sister. You didn't have to, he replies calmly. There's a particular pattern when someone mentions being the responsible one with that tone. There's almost always another child whose chaos required a counterweight. I think of Ivy, of her trail of abandoned majors, disappearing savings, impulsive jobs in cities she barely researched beforehand. Of how my parents talked about her. Ivy just needs time. Ivy is sensitive. Ivy's creative, she can't be expected to live in spreadsheets. Of how they talked about me. We don't worry about Milan, she always lands on her feet. I stare at the tiny flames between us. Her name is Ivy, I say quietly. She's 2 years younger. And tonight, he asks gently, did she text to say she couldn't make it? No, I say. She just didn't answer? He nods slowly like that tracks with a story he's seen before. Families like yours, he says, often run on unspoken contracts. One child is allowed to be complicated. The other is expected to be uncomplaining. The complicated one gets the resources. The uncomplaining one gets the compliments, mostly about how little they need. A strange pressure builds behind my eyes. My parents help Ivy, I say, hearing the defensive edge creep in. With rent, with flights, with a lot of things I don't mind, I like my job, I don't need. He holds up a hand, stopping me before I trip over the same script I always use. I didn't say you mind, he replies. I'm saying you were never asked. The waiter returns with an extra setting and a basket of bread that smells like rosemary and garlic. He places another glass on the table and refills the water, moving efficiently, practiced. Rowan waits until he leaves again before continuing. You came here tonight, he says, because your parents said they wanted to celebrate you. I nod. And when they didn't show, your first instinct was to assume they were delayed, to protect them with excuses, to feel guilty for being hurt. He isn't asking. He's reading aloud from a page I didn't know I'd written. I'm not mad, I say, more to myself than to him. I know they're busy. My dad's firm is in the middle of something, and my mom's organizing this fundraiser for Ivy's concept. They probably just lost track of time. Rowan studies me over the candles. Busy does not equal cruel, but ignoring your messages, failing to show up for a dinner they proposed, and not even sending a text, that's not busyness. That's choice. I want to argue, I really do. Maybe they forgot, I try. Did they forget Ivy's last birthday? The image is immediate. Photos on social media of balloons, a catered cake, a banner someone paid entirely too much money for. A rented hall with fairy lights because 30 is a milestone, darling. My silence is its own answer. He doesn't gloat. The hardest step, he says quietly, is admitting the love you get isn't the love you need, and that the role you've been playing has been slowly draining you while everyone claps for your endurance. The water in my glass ripples as my hand trembles. I set it down. So what? I ask. I just stop replying, stop showing up. That's not who I am. Maybe not, he says, but you can start by telling yourself the truth. They didn't come tonight, they didn't call. They didn't text, that is information. What you choose to do with it is up to you. I look at the candles, at the gold-edged place cards, at the text thread with my mom's "We should mark this properly." A bubble of something bitter rises in my chest. This was supposed to be about me, I say. The realization tastes strange, like I've said something selfish. Just once, he nods. And you are allowed to grieve that it isn't. The waiter returns with 2 plates, roasted halibut, vegetables glistening with olive oil, lemon wedges tucked into the side. Chef's choice, he says. Congratulations again, Miss Avery. Rowan waits until he leaves to pick up his fork. So, he says lightly, shifting the energy without dismissing it. Tell me about this project that got you promoted. For a beat, I consider shrinking, downplaying it, saying, oh, it's nothing. Instead, I inhale. It's a waterfront redevelopment, I say, seaborne. Old shipping docks being turned into mixed-use space. Green roofs, public parks, flood-resilient infrastructure. It's big. His eyes brighten. And they trusted you with that? Yes, I say, feeling the word anchor somewhere solid. They did. As I start to describe my favorite part, the pedestrian bridge that curves like a wave, the way the lighting design shifts with the tides, I notice something. Rowan isn't nodding politely while thinking about his email inbox. He's listening, really listening, like this is as important as anything he's heard all week. When I finish, he grins. They should be throwing you a parade, not standing you up on a rooftop. A laugh escapes me, shaky but real. Maybe start with a decent dinner, I say. We eat. We talk about resilience, about architecture as a way of shaping how people feel in a space. I tell him about growing up in houses my parents flipped every few years, never fully unpacking because the next move was always looming. He tells me about clients who realize at 45 that their entire personality is just what their family needed them to be at 5. By the time the candles burn down to nubs, the ache in my chest hasn't vanished. But it's changed. It's less like a wound and more like a bruise I can finally see clearly. When the waiter brings the bill, Rowan reaches for it. You don't have to, I start. I know, he says. I just want to. We argue briefly, then compromise on splitting it. He lets me pay for the wine. In the elevator lobby, he tucks the notebook back under his arm. If you ever want to talk to someone who isn't invested in keeping you in your assigned role, he says, here. He scribbles a number on the back of his card and slides it across. Is this your therapist pitch? I tease, but there's no sting in it. This is my human pitch, he says. Call or don't. Either way, remember tonight, not the emptiness of the chairs. The fact that you showed up for yourself even when no one else did. I slip the card into my pocket. On the way down in the elevator, surrounded by strangers staring at their screens, I feel something I didn't expect. Not humiliation, not devastation. A thin, almost imperceptible strand of something that might, in a different light, be called resolve. 1 month after the rooftop dinner, Seattle finally remembers it has a sun. Light pours over the gray buildings like someone turned the saturation up on the whole city. The cranes lining the waterfront look less like steel monsters and more like sculptures. At my desk, the glow from my computer battles with the brightness streaming through the office windows. My inbox is a war zone of subject lines. Seaborn, revised stormwater models city wants updated render by Friday press inquiry. Waterfront feature we love the bridge loudly crying face. From my junior designer, I rub my eyes, stretch my neck, and take a sip of rapidly cooling coffee. The mug was a gift from my team, tiny line drawings of buildings wrapped around the ceramic, chief overthinker printed under the handle. My phone buzzes face down on the desk. The vibration makes my stapler inch forward. For half a second, my brain flashes back to that night, checking the screen in the candlelight, willing a message into existence. I flip it over. Mom. My thumb hovers over the accept button. I take a breath and answer. Hi, Mom. Milan, finally. Her voice comes through crisp and bright like she's in the next room instead of across town. You've been impossible to catch. Guilt pricks at the edge of my mind, conditioned reflex. I've been on site a lot, I say. We're pouring the first section of the new promenade. It's, yes, the project, she says like I've mentioned a hobby. Listen, your father and I were talking last night about Ivy's new idea and we really think this is the one. Of course. Straight past the dinner that never was into the latest Ivy venture. I stare at the Seaborn model on my monitor. Sunlight glints off the glass roof in the render. What idea? I ask, even though I already know. The retreat, she says. The oceanfront wellness retreat. Ivy's calling it Horizon House. Isn't that charming? I picture Ivy lying on my old bed last week, hair in a messy bun, scrolling Instagram accounts of influencers doing yoga on cliffs. It's more than a retreat, she'd said then. It's a lifestyle. People will come for the experience, stay for the community. We'd have workshops, meditation, plant-based cuisine. Behind her, my mother had nodded eagerly. We just need a little help getting it off the ground. Now, on the phone, Mom's tone slips into the carefully neutral register she uses when she's about to ask for something big. We were thinking, she says, that with your promotion and everything going so well, you might be in a position to partner with her. Partner, I repeat. Yes, not charity, she adds quickly. Investment. We wouldn't dream of asking you to just hand money over. This would be an opportunity. Family working together. You could help her with the design, too. You'd be brilliant at creating the spaces. I swivel in my chair, looking out over the city instead of at my screen. Mom, I say slowly, how much are we talking about? She hesitates, the kind of hesitation that says she's rehearsed this. Well, to get the property and secure permits and start the build, the consultant said we'd need at least 80, I repeat. 1,000? As a starting point, she says quickly. We could probably do something smaller if we adjusted expectations. But you know how investors are. I'm an architect, not a private equity firm, I say, a little sharper than I intended. She goes quiet for a moment. We thought you'd be excited, she says, wounded. You and Ivy building something together? A month ago, I would have started bending immediately. I don't want to be difficult. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I can talk to the bank. I hear Rowan's voice instead. Busy does not equal cruel. Ignoring your messages and not showing up is choice. Mom, I say, steadying myself, can we talk about Aurora first? Aurora, the dinner, I say. The one you, Dad, and Ivy didn't come to, the night you said we needed to mark my promotion properly. The silence on the line shifts quality. Less affronted, more wary. Oh, that, she says. Milan, we felt awful about that. I told you things got complicated. Your father had a client emergency and Ivy wasn't feeling well and then You didn't call, I cut in, my heart thuds. You didn't text, not that night, not the next day. You didn't even ask how it went. Her inhale is audible. I assumed you understood, she says. Honestly, darling, you know how things are. Do we need to litigate every little? Celebrating my biggest career milestone so far isn't little, I say. My hand is trembling, but my voice isn't. You chose the restaurant, you picked the night. I sat there alone for an hour waiting for you. That's not a scheduling conflict. That's forgetting I exist unless I'm useful. That is not fair, she snaps. We have always supported you. We sent you to a good school. You sent Ivy to 3 schools, I remind her. With gap years in between, you've floated her rent half a dozen times. You've covered her deposits, her flights, her everything. I have one dinner to mark something I earned myself and you couldn't even text to cancel. There's a ringing in my ears that has nothing to do with the phone. The younger version of me, the one who learned early that making waves meant being labeled ungrateful, is screaming that I'm going too far, that I'm going to regret this. That mom will cry and dad will be disappointed, and Ivy will make a wounded post on social media and I will be the villain again. But there's another version of me too. The one sitting at that rooftop table, candles burning down, realizing in real time that she is more committed to showing up for her family than they have ever been to showing up for her. That version puts a hand on my shoulder from the inside and whispers, "Keep going." Mom exhales long and put upon. "I don't know why you're bringing this up now," she says. "We can't go back and change that night." "No," I say, "you can't. But you can stop acting like the only time I should hear from you is when you want something." The words hang there, too honest to snatch back. "There it is," she says, her voice cooling. "This is about money." "It's not about money," I reply. "It's about pattern." In the reflection on my window, I see myself, shoulders straight, jaw tight, phone pressed to my ear. I look like someone I've been designing buildings for but never imagined being. "What do you want me to say?" she demands. "We're sorry we missed your dinner. Life happens. We love you. We're proud of you. There. Are you satisfied?" I close my eyes. Rows of childhood images flicker past. My first science fair, where my project was overshadowed by Ivy's interpretive dance in the living room afterward. The night I called from college to say I'd gotten an internship with a top firm and my mother said, "That's nice, honey. Can you talk to your sister? She's upset about a boy." The morning I signed for my first apartment on my own and my father texted a thumbs up emoji. "You don't have to say anything," I tell her. "I just needed to say this out loud at least once in my life. And to answer your original question, no, I'm not going to invest $80,000 in Ivy's retreat." Her outrage is immediate, familiar. "After everything we've done for you," she says, "we never asked for anything, not once. And now when your sister finally has a dream, you want to slam the door in her face?" "You've asked a lot," I say quietly. "You've just never called it asking." "Milan, I have a meeting," I cut in. "I'm not ignoring Ivy, I'm not punishing anyone, I'm just choosing not to set myself on fire to keep everyone else warm anymore." She scoffs. "Is this one of your therapist's phrases?" I think of Rowan, of the way he'd said, "You showed up for yourself even when no one else did." "Something like that," I say. "I'll talk to you later." I hang up before she can respond. My hand hovers over the desk for a second, the phone still buzzing with phantom protests. I set it down face up this time, no new notifications. Just my own lock screen, a photo of the Seabourn site at dawn, cranes silhouetted against a pink sky. There's a light knock at my office door. "Come in," I say. Jules, one of my junior designers, peeks in. "Hey, Chief. City Council moved the review to 2 instead of 3. You good to present?" I look at the plans on my screen, the structural lines, the annotations, the layers of work. "Yeah," I say, "I'm good." She studies my face for a second. "You sure? A month ago I would have said I'm fine automatically. Now I consider. I'm in progress," I say. "But for the project, absolutely." She grins. "That's all that matters to them." After she leaves, my phone buzzes again. New message. Unknown number. I tap it open. It's a short text. "Heard any more busy, complicated excuses lately?" Despite everything, a laugh bubbles up. I type back before I can overthink it. "Just turned down a family investment pitch. Might need a medal." 3 dots appear almost immediately. A medal no, a quiet, expensive coffee and a debrief yes. Free at 7, I glance at my calendar at the blocks of color filling the afternoon. For years, I've built my life around other people's emergencies. Family, clients, city deadlines. For once, I block off 7 p.m. with a simple note, non-negotiable. I text back, 7 works, and Rowan, yes. Thanks for sitting down at my table that night. The reply is instant. Thanks for letting me. The rest is all you. I set the phone down, feel the sunlight on my hands, and realize something quietly monumental. The night my family didn't show up was awful. It was also the first time I truly did. The city glows gold when I walk out of the office that evening, the kind of warm light Seattle rarely offers in February. Puddles gleam like mercury, reflecting streaks of amber from the passing cars. I pull my coat tighter around me and let the cool air wash away the static of the day. 7 o'clock. Non-negotiable. It still feels strange to make plans that aren't centered on someone else's needs. No urgent family texts to respond to, no last-minute demands disguised as affection. Just a quiet meeting with someone who looks at me like I'm a person, not a resource. Rowan is already there when I arrive. The cafe is tucked into the corner of a renovated textile factory, brick walls, industrial lights, espresso steam curling through warm air. He sits by the window, a mug cradled in both hands, glasses slightly fogged. When he sees me, he smiles in the soft, unhurried way of someone who doesn't want anything from me. Hey, I say, settling into the seat across from him. Long day, he asks gently. I let out a breath. Long life, he huffs a quiet laugh. Well, we have time. The waitress brings my drink, something dark and strong, and I wrap my hands around the cup, grateful for the warmth. I don't know where to begin, so I start with the easiest lie. I'm fine. Rowan waits. He doesn't press. He just watches me with that steady presence that makes stillness feel safe. I inhale, try again. My mom called today. His eyebrows lift by a fraction, then lower again. And she immediately transitioned into how I can help Ivy's new business venture. I shake my head. No acknowledgement of that night, no apology for standing me up on my own celebration. Just the usual pattern. I sip my coffee, the bitterness grounds me. I told her no for the first time in my life. How did it feel? Rowan asks, voice low, terrifying, I admit, and freeing. Like I took a step off a cliff and realized there's ground beneath me. He smiles slightly. There usually is. I exhale slowly, but she didn't take it well. I wouldn't expect her to. You disrupted the system. I look up. System? The family system, he clarifies. Every family has one, roles everyone relies on even if they hurt you. When you stop playing your assigned part, chaos ensues. I think about that rooftop table. About my mom's clipped tone. About Ivy's last voicemail weeks ago demanding I still be a good sister. Chaos is an understatement. Do you think I'm being unfair? I ask. No, he says without hesitation. I think you're being honest. My fingers tap the rim of my mug. It's strange. I've spent my whole life trying not to disappoint them, and now I'm starting to realize their disappointment might not actually be my problem. Rowan leans back. That's a very big realization. Yeah, I say, it feels big. He reaches for his notebook and flips to a page, sliding it across the table. 4 small circles are drawn in a row. What's this? I ask. A model, he says. Your family system, each circle is a role. One person is the dreamer. One is the chaotic one. One is the rescuer. One is the invisible stabilizer. I tap the stabilizer circle. That's me. Yes, he says gently, but it doesn't have to be. My throat tightens, but I nod. When you change your role, he says, others scramble to maintain balance. They'll resist. They'll guilt trip. They'll accuse. But they'll adjust if you hold the line. And if they don't, I whisper, then you adjust, he says softly, and you build a new center of gravity. I stare out at the rain beginning to fall again, dotting the windows with silver freckles. A new center of gravity, a new orbit, a new life maybe. Later when we step outside, the night air feels colder but cleaner. Rowan walks beside me, hands in his coat pockets, steps unhurried. Thank you, I say quietly. For that night, for tonight. He tilts his head. Milan, you don't need to thank me for taking a seat at a table that deserved company. We stop at the corner where our paths split. Take care of yourself, he says. You too. He hesitates, then adds. Don't underestimate the power of this moment. One no is the seed of a forest of boundaries. I laugh softly. You and your metaphors. Occupational hazard. We part ways. As I walk home through the glowing city, I realize something. For the first time in a long time, I'm not bracing for impact. I'm stepping into something new, something of my own making. 2 weeks pass, then 3. My parents go silent. Not the healthy kind of silence, the strategic kind. The kind that makes you wonder if you should apologize even when you didn't do anything wrong. The kind they know will get under my skin. On the morning of the Seaborn Review meeting, my phone buzzes with a text from Ivy. Did Mom tell you about Dad's blood pressure? It's been really scary. He's so stressed. Maybe try reaching out. I stare at the message. Dad's blood pressure is fine. He had a physical last month. He bragged about his cholesterol numbers on Facebook. This is manipulation dressed as concern. The older version of me would have melted into guilt immediately. The newer version pauses, then types, I'll call him after my meeting. Thanks for letting me know, not I'm sorry, not I'll help with the retreat, just a boundary wrapped in politeness. At noon, my team and I present to the city council. The room is full of officials, reporters, and residents curious about the redevelopment. I stand in front of the large display, hands steady, voice clear. This isn't just a waterfront, I say. It's a living system. A place where the city breathes with the water, not against it. When the presentation ends, the room erupts in questions, good ones, engaged ones. The council members thank me. A few residents shake my hand, my team beams. It's the kind of moment I should be calling my parents about afterward. The kind of moment I would have begged them to be proud of. Instead, I glance at my phone. No messages from Dad, except the one Ivy sent hours earlier. I take a slow breath and decide to call him anyway. Hi, Dad, I say when he answers. Milan, he says, sounding surprised. Everything okay? I heard you weren't feeling well, I say. Oh, he replies, confused, I'm fine. Why? My stomach sinks, of course. That's good, I say calmly. I'm glad. I expect him to ask about my meeting. I expect him to ask how I am. He doesn't. After 2 minutes of small talk, he ends the call. Your mother wants me to remind you about Ivy's project, he adds before hanging up. And there it is. The real reason they answered. Something in my chest closes like a door I didn't realize was still open. That evening, after dinner with my team, I walk home alone under a sky full of stars blurred by city haze. Lights shimmer off the sound. The cranes at the edge of the pier stand like tall, patient guardians. When I get home, I open my laptop. I start typing an email, not out of anger, not out of desperation, but out of clarity. Subject: boundaries. Moving forward, I outline expectations. No business proposals, no surprise financial requests, no guilt tactics, scheduled calls, only neutral ground for meetups, respect or distance. It's firm. It's calm. It's final. I reread it once. Then hit send. The next morning, the response comes in before sunrise. From Mom, this is hurtful beyond words. We always supported you. I don't understand why you're attacking us like this. We raised you better. Under it, Dad adds, we're disappointed. Call us when you're thinking clearly. I stare at the screen. I don't cry. I don't shake. I simply whisper, I am thinking clearly, and close the laptop. My parents' version of disappointment spreads faster than wildfire. First through the family group chat, then to cousins, then to old family friends my mother treats like her personal public relations team. Soon I receive a concerned voicemail from Aunt Lydia, a passive-aggressive text from Cousin Brady, a DM from Ivy reading, really? You had to embarrass them like that? And finally, the message that makes me stop mid-stride outside a cafe. It's from Leo. My fiancé saw your family's post. Everything okay? They posted? My pulse jumps. I open Facebook. At the top of Mom's feed is a post with a soft-focus sunset photo. Sometimes the children we sacrifice everything for forget the meaning of family. Prayers appreciated. Broken heart 58 comments. All sympathetic. All assuming the version of events she wanted them to believe. I stand there, breath fogging the cold air, heart thudding. A familiar ache rises, the one that says fix it, smooth it over, make yourself smaller so they feel bigger. But I don't obey it this time. Instead, I message Leo. I'll explain everything tonight, not over text. He replies instantly, always, I'm here. That night, curled into the corner of our beige sectional, I tell him everything. The dinner, the stand-up, the phone call, the manipulation, the boundaries. The blowback, he listens without interrupting, without rushing, without judging. When I finish, he takes my hand. I'm proud of you, he says. This took strength. I lean my head on his shoulder. I'm scared. I know, he whispers. But fear doesn't mean wrong. We sit like that for a long time, city lights flickering through the curtains. The next week, the confrontation comes, not in a dramatic phone call, not in a tearful doorstep scene, in my office lobby. Jules buzzes me from the front desk. Your parents are here? Of course they are. Of course they would choose my workplace to stage another performance, just like they've always done. I inhale deeply, straighten my jacket, and walk to the lobby. Mom stands in a cream coat, hair perfectly smoothed into place. Dad beside her, stiff with silent judgment. Ivy sits on the couch, scrolling her phone dramatically. They brought witnesses. My colleagues pretend not to stare, but everyone notices. Mom puts on her hug that isn't a hug expression. Darling, she says, we need to talk. I gesture toward the small conference room. We step inside. I close the door. Mom sets down a bakery box decorated with gold ribbon. We brought you something, she says brightly, to celebrate your promotion. A month late, and only after my email forced boundaries. Thank you, I say politely because good manners are my last line of armor. Dad's jaw tightens. Your email was cruel, Milan. No, I say softly, it was honest. You made us look like neglectful parents, he snaps. I meet his gaze calmly. You neglected me that night. Mom gasps, hand to her chest. How dare you say that? Happened, I say. Not a theory, not a feeling, a fact. Ivy rolls her eyes. This is so dramatic. You're making it sound like we abandoned you on the streets. I didn't need a rescue, I say. I needed presence. They all fall silent for a moment. Then my mother switches tactics, her voice cracking with practiced vulnerability. Your father isn't sleeping, she says. Your behavior is affecting his health. Don't you feel responsible? The old version of me would have folded immediately. This version remembers Rowan's voice. Guilt is a leash. Boundaries are scissors. No, I say quietly. I am not responsible for his sleep because I said one word. No. Mom stares at me like she doesn't recognize my face. Dad narrows his eyes. So you think you're too good for us now? No, I reply. I think I'm finally good to myself. The room stills. A shift happens, small but seismic. You can stay in my life, I say gently, but you will not enter on terms that hurt me anymore. Mom shakes her head. Dad stands. Ivy crosses her arms. I think this meeting is over, Dad says curtly. Yes, I agree, it is. I escort them to the lobby. They leave without looking back. When the elevator doors close, I feel something I've never felt after standing up to them. Not guilt, not panic, not regret, relief, quiet, solid relief. Jules approaches cautiously. You okay? I smile. I think, I say slowly, I will be. The weeks after the confrontation move in quiet, unexpected waves. Not peaceful ones, not chaotic ones. More like the gentle drag of the tide pulling sand from under your feet, changing the shape of the shore without asking permission. My parents shift into a new strategy, the silent freeze, which in our family is not a punishment. It's a weapon, a measured retreat meant to make me question myself, to make me crawl back, apologizing for the discomfort of honesty. But the strangest thing happens. I don't crack, I don't fold, I don't panic at the void. Instead, I adjust. Not easily, not gracefully. Some days I feel like I'm walking through fog, every step uncertain, the cold creeping into my bones. But I keep moving. The Seabourn project accelerates. The promenade framing is installed. Drone shots capture the first outlines of the sweeping pedestrian bridge I designed last summer, its curve rising like a silver crescent over the water. The city posts the photos with a caption, Seattle's new skyline. My inbox fills with congratulations. My team surprises me with pastries on Monday morning. The mayor's office reaches out about a sustainability feature. In every direction, things are blooming, except one, family. My phone remains mostly still. A few muted notifications from relatives. Passive-aggressive scripture quotes from Aunt Lydia. A vague, cryptic text from my mother 3 weeks later. Hope you're well. Your father is recovering from the stress you caused. I read it once. Twice. Then let the screen dim without replying. It still stings, the blame, the rewriting, but something is different now. The sting no longer dictates my behavior. It just passes. Like weather. One evening after a 12-hour day on site, I stand at the edge of the new seawall as sunset hits the water. Light scatters in long streaks of pink and copper. The cranes stand like tall skeletons against the sky. The city hums behind me, distant but steady. "This is beautiful," someone says quietly at my side. I turn. Rowan is there, hands in his coat pockets, eyes on the water. "How long have you been standing there?" I ask. "Long enough to know you needed silence first." A small, involuntary smile tugs at my mouth. He always leaves room, just enough for breath, but never enough for suffocation. "You look tired," he says gently. "I am," I admit. "But not in the way I used to be." "What way is that?" "The kind of tired you get from holding everything together alone," I say. "This is the tired you feel after carrying something heavy and then finally setting it down." He nods, understanding without asking for more. "You did something very difficult, Milan." "Which part?" I laugh softly. "Standing up to them or not collapsing afterward?" "Both," he says. We lean against the railing. The water laps against the pylons below, rhythmic and grounding. I keep waiting for the guilt to swallow me again, I confess. "It's quieter, but it's still there, like an echo." "Echoes fade," he says, "as long as you stop shouting into the canyon." I look at him. "You always talk in metaphors. You always pretend you don't understand them." I elbow him lightly. He grins. After a moment, I ask the question that's been sitting behind my ribs for weeks. "Do you think things with my family will ever be normal?" Considers. Rowan never lies. That's what makes asking him terrifying. "Normal," he repeats. "No, I don't think so." I inhale sharply. But he continues, "I do think it can become something healthier, something smaller perhaps. More contained, boundaried, but real." "Real," I whisper, tasting the word. "I don't think we've ever had that." "You're different now," he says. "They can't use the same keys to unlock you." The wind picks up, carrying the smell of salt and rain. My hair whips across my face. I push it back, feeling the cool metal of my engagement ring against my cheek. "Speaking of keys," Rowan says softly, "how's Leo handling all this?" "Better than I expected," I say. "He gives me space when I need it. He listens. But sometimes I catch him looking at me like he's trying to figure out what version of me he's marrying." "And what version is that?" I exhale. "Not the version he met. Not the version my family built. Someone in between, someone still forming." Rowan nods. Then it's his turn to adjust. We don't talk about it more, we don't have to. Later that night at home, Leo cooks pasta while I sit at the counter sketching the finalized railing design for the waterfront walkway. He leans over, kisses the top of my head, asks about my day, listens to the details most people would find boring. It's soft, quiet, safe, but there's a hesitance too, a slight distance. A question hanging in the air neither of us voices. "Are you becoming someone I still fit with?" I don't know the answer, not yet. 1 month becomes 2. Spring pushes into Seattle in a blur of cherry blossoms and gray skies. The Seabourn project moves into its final phase. My mentorship program launches. Rowan's book comes out. He signs my copy with a quiet note inside. "To the woman who showed up for herself." Most people wait decades. And then June arrives, bright, warm, and carrying a wedding invitation I didn't ask for, not mine, Ivy's. It arrives in the mail wrapped in blush pink vellum with gold foil lettering, as if pretty packaging can disguise what it represents. "You are cordially invited." I stare at it for 10 full minutes. Then I text Rowan. "What happens if boundaries get tested the minute you set them?" He replies, "Then you practice using them, over and over, until they hold." Practice. I set the invitation down, inhale, and begin drafting an email. The day of Ivy's wedding arrives like a storm pretending to be a celebration. The venue is a restored greenhouse on the outskirts of the city, all glass walls and white roses and curated elegance. Light filters through the panes and beams, making everything glow too perfectly, like the world is trying too hard to be soft. I'm not sure why I came. Respect, closure, curiosity. Maybe to prove to myself that boundaries don't mean abandonment. Maybe to see if healing is possible when the roots are still tangled. Leo walks beside me, suit jacket pressed, expression unreadable. We haven't talked much today, not because anything is wrong, but because I think we're both watching the landscape for emotional landmines. Inside, the air is thick with perfume and chatter. My mother spots me first. She freezes. Then smooths her dress, then approaches with a brittle smile. Milan, she says, air kissing the space near my cheek. You look lovely. You too, I say. It's easier than telling the truth. She looks like she's preparing for a performance she doesn't fully understand. My father shakes my hand stiffly. Ivy gives me a quick hug, smelling of gardenias and hairspray, and then the moment I knew would come. So, Ivy says, twirling her bouquet, did you reconsider the retreat investment? It would be a lovely wedding gift. Of course, she would ask today. I take a slow breath. No, I say softly. She blinks. No, no, I repeat. My gift is already on the table. The financial planning book and a modest check, thoughtful but not enabling. She stares at me like I've just violated some unwritten wedding code. You're being so cold lately, she whispers. No, I say, I'm being clear. I see the moment her frustration sparks. Her eyes narrow, her voice sharpens. You know what Mom said? She said you've changed, that this phase you're in is hurting everyone. And there it is. The phrasing my family uses when someone stops playing by their rules. I straighten. If me having boundaries hurts everyone, I say, then maybe the system was broken to begin with. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. Before she can reply, someone calls her name, wedding photos, a perfect distraction. She storms off, veil fluttering like a wounded bird. Leo touches my arm gently. You okay? Yes, I say, shocked that it's true. The ceremony begins. White chairs, soft music, dripping florals. I sit politely, clap at the right moments, smile when appropriate. But something shifts inside me as I watch Ivy glide down the aisle, as I watch my parents beam, as I watch everyone else move in perfected choreography. I'm here in the scene, but I'm not part of it, not in the old way. Something in me has stepped outside the frame. After the ceremony, while guests mingle, I slip out through one of the greenhouse doors and step into the garden. The air is cooler here, quieter. My lungs expand for the first time all day. Footsteps follow. Thought I might find you here, Rowan says. He's dressed formally, hair neatly combed, a small boutonniere pinned to his lapel. He must have been invited by Ivy's fiancé's family. Apparently he consults at the groom's company. Small world, I say with a laugh. He steps beside me, hands resting loosely in his pockets. How are you holding up? He asks. Better than expected? Worse than I want to be, stronger than I feared, more alone than I hoped. I give the only answer that feels true. I'm honest, I say, with myself finally. It's messy, but it's real. He nods approvingly. Real is worth the mess. I look at him. I don't think they'll ever see me the way I used to hope. Maybe not, he agrees. But you see yourself now. His words land with a weight I can feel in my sternum. We stand in silence for a moment, the leaves rustling softly overhead. You know, Rowan says, not all families are built by blood. I huff a small laugh. You're very poetic today. I'm always poetic. You're just noticing now. We both smile. Inside the greenhouse, applause erupts. The speeches must be starting. I'm expected to go back in, sit through the toasts, be visible, be good, be pliant. But for the first time in my life, I do something else. I choose myself. Walk with me, I ask Rowan. He nods. We drift down the winding path behind the greenhouse, away from the noise, away from the pressure, away from the old gravitational pull. After a few minutes, I say, I don't think I want to go back in. You don't have to, he replies. It's such a simple sentence. But it feels like permission I've been waiting for since childhood. When I return to the venue entrance later, Leo is waiting. He looks relieved when he sees me. You ready? He asks. His voice is warm, steady, patient. I lace my fingers through his. Yes, I say. We leave together, not running, not sneaking, just walking quietly away from a scene that no longer fits the shape of my life. As we drive home down the tree-lined road, sunlight flickers through the branches overhead. The world feels open, wide, new. And for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm abandoning anything. I feel like I'm arriving. A year later, I stand on the finished Seabourn Promenade, the curve of the pedestrian bridge glowing against the sunset, the water lapping against the pilings below, families wandering the walkways I designed, children eating ice cream on the benches I fought to include. My family stands 20 feet away, taking photos beside the dedication plaque. They're excited because the mayor is here, because the press is here, because being related to me looks good today. But they don't walk toward me. And I don't walk toward them. We nod politely from a distance. A quiet truce, a boundary held. Leo's hand slides into mine. Solid, steady, chosen. You did this. he says softly, looking out over the water. We did this, I correct him. He smiles and presses a kiss to my temple. And as the city lights shimmer across the sound, as voices ripple around us like warm waves, as people wander the spaces I once saw only on screens, I feel it. Not hope, not triumph, not validation, something deeper, self-respect. Lived, not begged for, earned, not gifted, mine, and it's enough.